Well, here we are.
And we are back for another, what we hope to be riveting episode of High Water Trek Co. podcast.
I'm Katie.
And I am still Sam.
And we are still kicking.
Yes, we are still High Water Trek Co. Welcome, guys. Thanks for tuning in, taking time out to give us a listen. We appreciate you. So today we're going to be talking about one of our very favorite sections of our very favorite trail, and that is the upper current section of the Ozark Trail. If you're familiar at all with the Ozark Trail, you probably know that there is more than one current river section, which can be maybe a little confusing if you're not familiar with it, but this is specifically the upper current section of the Ozark Trail that runs from the Blair Creek section to Current River State Park. This section is a little bit over 29 miles, almost 30 miles. It's rated as moderate to difficult. The entirety of this section is located within Shannon County. And there's several different agencies overseeing various parts and sections of this particular section, including Ozark National Scenic Riverways. We've got Echo Bluff State Park and Current River State Park, and then we also have the LAD Foundation's Roger Pryor Pioneer Backcountry area.
That's a mouthful sometimes.
It kind of is.
Roger Pryor.
Yes. So there's a lot of different folks and organizations that put in the effort and oversee and take care of this particular section in various areas.
And I got to talk a little bit to Kathie Brennan from the Ozark Trail Association about this because we were kind of curious about which parts of the trail existed already and what was actually built when they started building this. So I was able to have a phone call with her. I'm excited to share that with you. I hope that I can do it justice because she gave me a lot of information very quickly, and my note-taking hand could not quite keep up. So I've done my best to summarize it, but I really hope that I haven't missed anything important. But here is what she told me.
Okay, I'm fascinated. I have not heard the report yet, so also thank you, Kathie.
Yes, thank you, Kathie. She was a world of information.
I have to tell you, I have not met Kathie, I don't think, in person, but she definitely has a presence in the outdoor recreation community in Missouri. I think she's well known. You can't miss her because she just seems to be working hard all the time. So big props to Kathie, and I just appreciate people that go the extra mile to.
Me too. I admire her and all of the volunteers.
Yes.
Especially the ones, they've been doing this for 20 plus years, a lot of them.
And it sounds like she's highly enthusiastic, so.
Oh, she is.
Let's hear what Kathie had to say.
So she said that the idea for this trail, the very first inkling of the idea of doing it dates back almost 20 years. And then, as Sam mentioned, it had to involve multiple agencies working together. So this included the Ozark Trail Association that was kind of represented by John Roth at that time. The Pioneer Forest. She mentioned that Greg Ifrig was one of the main guys. And then the State and National Park and the LAD Foundation. And we've talked about this a little bit before in one of our episodes, but just to refresh a little bit, the LAD Foundation was established in the 60s. And it's a privately operated Missouri-based organization that focuses on responsible land management and conservation in the Ozarks. So they've made significant contributions over the years, acquiring lands mostly through donation, and they've created 12 Missouri natural areas and a state park. The Pioneer Forest, like Sam mentioned, is managed by the foundation, and it showcases some sustainable forestry practices that were originally developed by the founder, Leo Dre, who also donated a lot of land, but he was basically one of the biggest champions for single tree selection over clear cutting. And so there's a lot more to him. It's kind of my understanding that Leo Dre founded the Pioneer Forest in 1951 first, and then later the LAD Foundation was made. So they're doing some really cool work.
It's really interesting. I'm still getting a grasp on exactly what all they do. I really have explored their website. It's pretty fascinating stuff, though. I don't think most people realize that kind of a private foundation has such a big role in conservation in Missouri. Really interesting.
And it's important work. Like, I think it's nice to see organizations that are finding, like, a balance somewhere, because you get the, like, people that are all about logging and clear cutting, and then the people that are like, don't cut down a single tree.
Right.
And it's nice to see someone working kind of in the middle to find something that is more sustainable and responsible. I don't know. I just like that.
Well, and I want to throw out that I was up on this section just a couple days ago, and I saw that they've hung up a lot more of the LED foundation signs, like along the road and stuff, and just saying, that foot traffic is welcome. No motorized vehicles are allowed at all in the backcountry beyond the county roads. So, but they do have signs welcoming foot traffic now, which I was a little confused previously about where it was, because I know it's not all private and some's public, and it's can kind of have there's a lot of different things going on in that area, but I thought that was nice.
It is.
Some nice new signs.
And they have a lot of their own trail systems we should check out sometime.
Mm-hmm. They've got a great website, too.
We should link them.
We should.
We will.
We will.
So, the initial proposal was to create a trail that was going to branch off from the west side of the existing Brushy Creek Loop, which was up in the Pioneer Forest side. And then the original route looked a lot different from what we see today. She said that back then, when they were starting all of this, Echo Bluff State Park was still the privately owned Camp Zoe. So they were trying to find ways to bypass Camp Zoe altogether. And so it was going to involve like having to navigate these high ridge lines and crossing the Current River at some point. And ultimately it wasn't really feasible for future hikers. So that's not the route that we have today. And again, everything had to go through these different agencies. And so everything was approved by the involved agencies except for the National Park Service or the National Scenic Riverways, because they still had to conduct the environmental impact studies that were required by the National Environmental Policy Act.
Okay.
Which later, unfortunately, the studies did reveal that there was going to be potential negative impacts of that original route. So it kind of threw some wrenches in the plans. But they did go ahead and start construction on the parts that they knew they could do. So they started on that side of the trail in the Pioneer Forest, and they kind of mapped their whole route using their GPS to work around the boundaries of the National Scenic Riverways. And then throughout all of the time that the trail was being built, Echo Bluff State Park took possession of Camp Zoe, which is kind of a story we could explore in the future, maybe.
It's a hot
Ozark
topic in the area.
It is. I was like, how should I phrase this? Because I want to be like, I don't know. We don't have to go into that, but
it's complicated.
They took it over.
It's complicated, I love hiking through there, and I'm glad that that's available for me, but it's complicated.
It is.
So maybe some others.
So hey, if you're curious, Google it. Maybe we'll have a history. But anyway, what I'm saying is that throughout the time that they were constructing the trail, that kind of became a non-issue because Echo Bluff State Park took it over, so then they didn't have to bypass anymore, and they were able to make the route the way that it goes now.
So it did work out for the OT.
So then fast forward to September 2017, permission was finally granted to build in the Ozark National Scenic Riverways. And so by December of that year, a group of 35 volunteers gathered at Carr's Canoe Rental at Round Spring to kick off the construction of the Upper Current River section in that area. So Kathie told me that the volunteers basically split into two groups, and one went right and one went left, and they just started building their way off. So, exciting times. And so then in 2018, they got a National Civilian Community Corps crew to join the OTA workers. She said a crew of 7. I don't know if that's including the OTA workers or if that's just the NCCC.
Okay.
Either way, they had a crew that was able to stay at Current River State Park as they worked on the trail. And so over the span of 8 weeks, they were able to build 3.5 miles of new trail, like completely from scratch.
Wow.
Which may not sound like a lot, but Sam and I have both volunteered on a trail build, and so we now know that, like, That's really impressive.
From scratch. That is so hard. And that is some rocky, rough terrain through there, too. So props, you guys.
Yeah, because they're also, like, having to scout it out and flag the best. You know, like, it's a whole process. So hard work. And they were also dealing with the very difficult access points, which we'll touch on in a second. So the effort basically continued, and throughout the construction, there were OTA volunteers, AmeriCorps members, which the NCCC is a part of AmeriCorps, I guess.
Okay.
And state park workers that all contributed to building this trail. So ultimately, they built nearly 20 of the 29 miles of trail on this section.
Wow.
From what I understood, hopefully my notes were accurate. I couldn't understand them afterwards. But what I'm understanding is that the only existing parts of the trail were some trail from the current River State Park to Highway 19, and then the Brushy Creek Loop that starts at Highmont Trail. That existed along with the little bit of connector that goes to about Low Gap. And I believe since the upper current section actually starts at Blair, I believe they also built that little, like, 2.25 mile Laxton Spring connector.
Gotcha. To Highmont.
If I wrote that down accurately.
Okay. I think that's right. I think I've read that.
But still, I mean, either way, regardless of which actual sections, we know that they built almost 20 miles of that. All of those volunteers from the different agencies. So the final phase of construction wrapped up in 2019, and they celebrated with a ribbon cutting ceremony that October. So it is indeed the newest, most baby section of the Ozark Trail currently. So what stood out to me during our conversation, it was kind of nice to talk and, like, look at my map and also just kind of reflect on Sam and I's experience on this trail. But just the hard work involved. Like, she and I have both hiked this trail for pleasure, and we've been on it to do trail maintenance. So we can definitely attest to how remote it is and how challenging that can be, even just to get in and out.
That's so much of the struggle on this section, honestly, is just getting to the trailheads.
Well, and Kathie mentioned at one point in the conversation that, like, through all of those years of trail building, like, they never saw anyone out there. And I'm like, same. I think the only time I've seen someone was on, like, the Round Spring Spur, not even on the actual, you know, so.
Right.
But I thought that was funny because that was like a, oh gosh, I don't know, almost 18-year long. It took them a long time to build this, so to not see anybody in that whole amount of time tells you how remote that area is.
It's so pretty, though.
It is. That's part of what makes it so special. So yeah, she also shared a lot of stories about the crew, especially when they lived out of Current River State Park. They were having to navigate back and forth on those really rough access roads that we're also familiar with. And they even got the truck stuck at one point, which sounded like it was a bit of a, like, not traumatic, but like a situation. She's like, I never wanted to go down that road again.
How are we going to get it out?
Like, I can imagine. And you don't usually have any sort of phone service back there.
Right.
Like, no matter who your carrier is. So.
And that is something to note. If you are interested in hiking the section, you might have some service on top of some of the ridges, but you're not going to in the bottoms.
Yeah.
Full stop. Not going to happen. So it's something just to account for, because you may not have any.
So they were having to go down these are like old logging roads that we're talking about that are not very trafficked, and their condition really varies depending on if you've had like heavy rains or storms. There might even be trees across the road. Right. So they were dealing with that on top of everything. And
to be fair, if you looked at maps, a lot of those roads are marked four-wheel drive roads, so it is kind of what you expect. Sometimes they're better than others, though. you truly never know. Yeah, they change
what you're getting into.
They turn into creeks, and then they look different, and anyway.
And we've used these. One of them drops you in around mile 14 if you're hiking westbound, which is kind of where the mileage on the map is marked. Mm-hmm. It'll take you to about mile 14, and then the other one drops you about mile 18.5. So those are sort of the only two accesses to sort of the middle section of the trail.
Right.
And those are long roads. Sam was just out there, and she said the one was like 45 minutes to get to the trail.
Just on dirt roads. Doesn't count on, any of the other driving. That's just on the forest roads. So it takes some time.
So you can imagine how tired they probably were of even just the getting there to work on the...
No kidding.
She did mention this old road along a ridgeline, and I know you would recognize it when she was talking about it. I recognize it because multiple times I have kind of come up this hillside and thought that ridgeline road was the trail because it's super old, so it looks like it could be, but then the trail kind of hangs to the left. So they did find out how to get in on that road at one point, she said, but it was super abandoned. She said they found all kinds of vintage oil cans back there, all kinds of stuff.
And there are old home places through some of this area that you will come across too, but we'll get into that maybe a little bit more when we talk about our own experiences. But
I had kind of forgotten about that until the other day. So I'm excited.
The daffodils out in the woods. I always like seeing that.
I say all of this just to say that it gives you a little bit of a picture of how challenging this section of trail was for them to build, especially when you consider that these OTA workers are also simultaneously maintaining all of these other sections of trail and even building on some other section of trail at the same time.
And volunteering
to
do this.
These are all volunteers.
So, right. That's worth noting also, and, probably trying to maintain their own lives and things as well. So that is quite the feat.
Yeah. And then even the added challenge of how they originally had to flag a route that would bypass the Ozark National Scenic Riverways. And then, so what that meant was once they did finally get approval, they had to go back and reflag everything before they could build, what the route ended up being. But they got so close. She said that when they went back to do that, they still found some of their original flagging from 10 years prior.
Can you imagine what this section would be like if it wasn't along the current?
That would be crazy.
It'd be a totally different.
I can't even picture.
Totally different thing.
Where it would have had to gone to bypass that whole.
Yes, because this whole section is intimately runs with the current river, not throughout the entire thing, but it's along the river through a whole lot of it, even if you're not actually seeing the river right next to you. It is tied to the river, so it's hard to imagine it would have been a whole other thing. Just a forest walk, I guess.
Can't picture it. So that's kind of the basic history of the trail. Kathie shared a whole lot of other things that I would love to go into, but they're not necessarily about this section. I did want to just kind of wrap up by saying that she emphasized that the future of our trails really does lie in the hands of the volunteers. These agencies just don't have the financing or the manpower most of the time to maintain and develop the trails without extra help from volunteers and from members and all that. She was saying that in the 1970s, a bunch of these organizations kind of took on this task of examining the recreational opportunities in their states nationwide. And she said that almost every state came back with deficit in hiking opportunities. And so as a result, Mark Twain National Forest at that time placed a really high priority on building trail systems. Oh. But for whatever reason, by the 80s and the 90s, the emphasis dwindled and the funding also dwindled. Yeah. And so she said she has been told by, I'm not going to say who because I can't remember which organization they represented, but basically, if the Ozark Trail Association had not come along and taken up the efforts that they did, there are many miles of trail in Missouri that would have been decommissioned. And so, to put this into perspective, of the about 430 total miles of the Ozark Trail that exist currently, about 364 of those are within Mark Forest. Mark Twain National Forest.
Wow.
So that gives you a good idea of what could have happened without them.
Right. That's amazing.
I know that one really kind of blew me away, and that's why I wanted to make sure that I put that in there. She said that funding has improved. They've had a couple years of pretty good funding thanks to the Great American Outdoors Act, which I looked up. It was passed in 2020. But that enabled the Mark Twain National Forest to get about $150,000 for them one year and then $250,000 last year. So they were able to really get themselves caught back up. That sounds like a lot of money. But, when you think about all of the equipment, and they were able to actually hire some positions, essential positions, and so it kind of got them caught back up. Unfortunately, we can't really count on that moving forward, though, because you've probably heard, I had heard, and Kathie mentioned that there's already talk of, like, major budget cuts in 2025.
I think it's a fact. Yeah. It's happening, so.
I heard, like, up to 75%, but I was having trouble finding that actual number, so. But it's significant. Like, they're worried. Like, they're not. Around here, we have a lot of seasonal workers for the state parks and all that, and they're not hiring any seasonal workers in 2025 at all, and any positions they're, like, promoting from within. They're basically hiring no one from the outside. Like, that's going to have a huge impact.
It's going to have a huge impact, especially, like, places like this that maybe don't need full-time workers. You know, we have a lot of seasonal positions. We're all going to notice a difference.
Yes.
We are.
I think it's already, like, affecting some things. Like, I don't know if you read... I had read that the state parks in Missouri, I think, was it state or national? Either way, they were no longer going to do the ability to just self-pay at the little kiosks when you camp. Everything has to be reserved ahead of time.
I think it's the national park.
And I wonder if that in some like has something to do with the cuts and just not having the manpower to make sure people are paying, or I don't know. Which is unfortunate.
I'm sure it's coinciding for a reason.
Yeah.
No, we don't need manpower. They have to do it on a website.
Of course you don't. You need woman power. You need Kathie power, apparently. So the Ozark Trail Association does do its best to fill its funding gaps through their membership programs, through the events that they host. Like, they have some pretty good races and events that go on throughout the year. They have a hard time getting grants. She said that a lot of the grant programs focus on populations that aren't necessarily represented in the work that they do. They just don't quite meet the demographic that some of the grant programs want to see, even though they are very involved in local communities. They do a lot of programs kind of in conjunction with National Park, programs with children. I think, you know, they provide a lot of great educational benefit, but unfortunately they don't really qualify for grants. So a lot of it really does depend on people going to these events and paying for memberships or volunteering their time. So
take note.
Yeah.
They need help.
So every time you take a step on this trail, it's a testament to the dedication and teamwork of all of these passionate individuals from all of these different agencies. So yeah, I think I'd just like to call on the people that love hiking to support the trails, support the organizations. We'll definitely link the Ozark Trail Association. There's so many different ways that you can, whether it's financially through membership, volunteering your time, or even adopting a section of trail like Sam and I have. Definitely don't do that unless you can make the commitment, though. I will say it's tough.
We've struggled with it. Of course, we have such a remote section
we really do
too, and that's partly our own fault. But they can use volunteers anytime. You don't have to adopt a section to go work on a section. Yeah. They're constantly having events going. Like, I'm talking constant, almost year round. It seems like these days they're up to something. So they would always have something to put you to work if you're interested in volunteering with them.
Definitely, and it's a good opportunity to meet people like Kathie and like Terry Hahn, who we've talked to before, who kind of heads up most of the construction and maintenance.
Boots on the ground.
Yes. They just, you know, they've spent so many years maintaining this trail that they know it so intimately, like every inch of it. And so Kathie was kind of highlighting some of her favorite features of different sections of the trail, and I'm not able to include them all in here because they were from like all different sections. But basically, there's something unique on every one that she shared. And she had a lot of good inside knowledge about, like, where you're going to see elk, where you're going to see the wild horses. So, yeah, she is a fun one to talk to if you ever catch her. And also, I just wanted to share that she did say her favorite part of doing trail maintenance is on the days when they do leaf blowing. And they blow off all the leaves, and it reveals, like, this bright, beautiful carpet of moss.
Oh, I'm with you, Kathie.
That does sound pretty special.
I love moss.
So I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm super thankful to Kathie for taking the time to talk to me. Maybe we can interview her sometime, but
we would love that. Yeah, thank you so much, Kathie. We, too, love the Ozark Trail. We love this section, and we just really appreciate you taking the time to share your love. also for all of your dedication and hard work and the way that you inspire others to work hard. It's very impressive, and we really appreciate your input and taking that time.
And on top of all of this, just if you needed even more of a picture of who Kathie is, she volunteers on the AT once a year also, doing maintenance out there, just for funsies, I guess.
Goals. That's awesome.
So she's a force.
Well, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about what you'll expect if you actually do decide to go out and check out the Upper Current section. The land, the topography, the scenery, it's really just sums up what the best of what the Ozarks has to offer. It is a really beautiful section. It's very similar to a lot of the other type of landscapes we have around here, but just a little bit more amplified. And by that, I mean the hills are huge. The hills around the Current River are big, almost mountainous type hills. Tend to be bigger, kind of some bigger scenery than we see in other areas of the Ozarks. So, some really tall hills, really steep hillsides, which is, something you have to consider when we're thinking about water and all these things. So it is incredibly beautiful, but it is tall hills, steep climbs. It's rugged. It's rough and rugged in the best way.
Yeah.
But it is not the easiest trail, I would say. Some things you could probably look forward to. Definitely lots of sweeping vistas of the river and the valleys surrounding them. Lots of good outlooks looking over the current. Really beautiful spots all along this section, actually. You kind of will get away from the river and come back to it, and there'll be a new view. There's several waterfalls along this section. Of course, you're going to be climbing lots of ridges, going down in deep hollows and valleys. Lots of beautiful bluff tops over the river. This area, like most of the Ozarks, is a karst region with our limestone. We have lots of caves, sinkholes, springs, and these are the types of features that you will see on this section. There are some igneous outcrops of rock as well, which I am going to keep my eye on. But that's just kind of the typical landscape that you're going to find yourself in. Again, very similar to other areas of the Ozarks, but maybe just a little bit more intense, a little bit more rugged than some areas. And some pretty steep ascends as well. So, So I don't know. Does that sound kind of like what we encountered?
It does.
On our experiences on these sections so far?
I like how you said, like, the Ozarks amplified. That feels like a very good descriptor to me.
Yeah, just around the current, it is rugged. It is steep. It's a little bit more challenging than maybe some of the other sections, I would say. Yeah.
And it has, even the Current River, I feel like, is kind of exaggerated almost compared to... It's a little bigger. It's so many springs, like just the color of the water sometimes.
So many springs. It's a little bit wilder. River. I mean, it's so rural. It's so far out. And of course it is like these protected lands and whatnot. So it's pretty wild.
It is.
And not like in a woo way, but like, yeah, you might actually run into a bear out there. It wouldn't surprise me. I know that there's been hogs seen on this section. And if you're lucky, you might just get to see those wild horses of Shannon County on this section because I think they frequent the area as well.
I think they do too. I think they're responsible for that horse poop we see out there in the middle of nowhere. Yes,
and there's some fresh out there. I was just out there. And in fact, I managed to get a glimpse of the horses just right down the road from this section. So they're not far. They're in the area.
Yeah.
I have dreams of someday seeing them on our section, but...
I want to see them crossing the river. I've seen people post pictures of it, but I just want to see it for myself.
Well, currently they're munching down all that pretty green grass at Echo Bluff State Park.
They're allegedly frequent flyers at Echo Bluff, from what I hear.
Can you blame them, though?
No.
And as we've talked about, you're going to pass through these kind of different agencies, which have a little bit different rules depending on where you're at. But if you are preparing for a backpacking trip along this type of section, I would suggest, as always, to check out the Ozark Trail's availability of maps. They have a great map of this section, and it'll give you lots of information about different features, things like that. So always say, buy the maps. They're worth every penny.
Beautiful maps. The best maps you've ever seen.
Yeah. And they do have a map you can download, which is fine and dandy, and it's actually kind of the same base map, but if you order the map that they'll send to you, it comes with a lot more features, and it has like the elevation profile and whatnot, and not all of that is included on the downloadable freebie.
Mm-hmm. And I also just want to say, like, I love the size of their maps, because I have some other maps for trail sections that are so huge and unwieldy. So I appreciate the compact little presentation here.
I do too. And I think a lot of organizations do this, but they kind of make it out of that waterproof paper, which, you just gotta love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's highly appreciated. So, like we've been talking about, this section is very remote. It's hard to get to. Kind of at the end of the Blair section is Highmont Trailhead. There's actually a couple miles technically through there. Highmont Trailhead is not the easiest to get to. It's pretty far out.
At least from us.
Yes. I think from everyone. Yeah. There's a couple ways to get there. I think driving the highway, you're going to want to go through Bunker, Missouri, which is a roundabout way to get there. I think no matter again where you're coming from, it's just pretty rural. There is also a national forest road that I believe is kept in pretty decent shape that cuts across from Echo Bluff State Park to Highmont Trailhead. We have not tried it, but we will someday.
I'm very curious.
It's, I believe, 11 miles. It appears to be a pretty solid road. I do think that there's several low water crossings, so that is something you'd want to keep in mind if the water's high. It's not right now. I'm sure you'd have no problems at all. But it's something to consider if you decided to try the 11-mile dirt road instead of going all the way around. But it is a long shuttle around there, so...
Have a good playlist ready.
Yes.
Some snacks for the car.
Maybe some caffeine. So when Katie and I decided to hike this section, it was something that I was pretty unfamiliar with. Katie had been out and covered some of this before.
Had I?
I think so. Yeah, because there's recordings of you.
Okay.
By yourself somewhere.
My memory doesn't go back that far.
And we did start at Highmont Trailhead, which technically is a couple of miles in already, according to the map of this section. But it's kind of the beginning.
We did not backtrack. Yeah. We didn't hike up to Blair and hike back just to say we did.
Right. Because there is no road at the Blair Creek where it spurs off onto this section. So we started where we could.
You got the time that you got. Sometimes you can't add an extra 5 miles.
Right. And we didn't have the time. So we did start at Highmont and worked our way through this section. We ended up doing it maybe in a couple different trips. We kind of broke it apart.
I think so. I feel like I remember we had allowed for one extra night, but maybe we ran into some weather. So I remember kind of pushing longer to get off before a storm rolled in.
It was another one of those hikes we finished in the dark. And that was just into Round Spring. We actually finished the last few miles on a different day. But the thing I remember most about that first section of trail from Highmont down towards the Current River is just a lot of creek crossings. Like, so many. And more than that's probably indicated even on the map.
I think so. It was constant.
It was constant. Of course, it was March, I think, so there was a lot of water. It's the time of year we're going to run into water.
Wouldn't have that right now.
No, you wouldn't have that issue now. But that was definitely a big element of it, especially that first half of it. And I'm looking here at the map, and there really isn't a lot of these marked, but there was just one after the other. And, you have to think about the height of these hills. If it's raining, there's going to be there's going to be water at the bottom. So not always, but sometimes. So I remember we had a lot of creek crossings that first day. And then we ended up camping kind of down in the creek bottom, which maybe wasn't ideal, but it worked out.
It was moist.
It was moist. It was chilly.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing some fun birds that night.
Oh, yeah. Those owls. Were they owls?
I think so.
They were making some weird noises.
Like dueling owls. So I think on that first day, we did about 7 miles and got to around mile marker 9 on the map and kind of down in those creek bottoms right in there and went from there.
Yeah, considering how long it took us to get there to start,
Mm-hmm.
7 miles is a decent day.
Yeah, and it was not terribly difficult, but I wouldn't say it was super easy hiking either.
No.
I feel like a lot of that day was working downhill because you are like slowly but surely working towards the river bottom, but there was still some nice climbing to be had that day too.
And also we are starting off in the section that's the pioneer forest, so there is, you know, some logging that has happened older, and then we did run into some more recent logging probably on the second day. I'm trying to remember.
I think so, like after we kind of moved back away from the river and back up in the woods some, I think we ran into more logging. But even that first day, because on some of those recordings we did note how many trees were down. So that's just something to be aware of. I think at the time it wasn't our favorite. I'm still not going to say it's my favorite to hike through.
Right.
It's like area currently being logged, even though I can appreciate the purpose of it. It's still maybe not the prettiest to look at.
And there was one little section where it really had torn up the trail, which made navigation a little more difficult. Like, I remember it kind of being on a hillside and there was some recent logging and it just had like scraped the trail and you were having to step over things. So that is a factor of, it can add that. But I think there also, even though it's all being done really responsibly and sustainably, and I see the value in that, I think that was kind of my first experience hiking through an area like that versus just some of the other just more wild that's all within like national park or wilderness area or whatever. So it was kind of a different emotional experience almost to see that.
I agree.
And I don't really have more to say about that than just that. Like it definitely had like sort of an emotional response in me, but.
Well, I mean, I think it's fair to say, you know, they have different operators out there logging. So some probably do a better job than others on just being respectful. And that's just how that goes. I think with all things in life, some are going to be more careful than others. So I think that there's a point to be had that, you know, it can vary the experience itself. Also, while I can appreciate, you know, these sustainable forest management practices that they have going on, and I understand it, it doesn't mean that it's actually pretty.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, like for me, it was almost like being reminded of industry, because that's not usually something like when I go backpacking or hiking, it's almost to like get away from society and industry in this world we live in. So to hike through a section where you're reminded of that, maybe that was part of it. It's like, it didn't feel quite as far removed. It's like, oh, it's people-y.
It's society under your nose again, completely.
And none of this is to make a dig at the logging or at because like we said, this is a really great foundation and they're working really responsibly. So.
And right. And that's been 2 years ago almost. Well, it has been 2 years ago. So it's probably been cleaned up since then, you know, or they've moved on. It's not like we're trying to dismiss or say anything bad about the logging at all. It's just a fact that that's what's going on. And so it might be something to prepare yourself to see. Yeah.
Especially if you're someone who's sensitive to seeing a tree cut, it's going to be a factor for you. You might have some feelings about it. So.
Yeah. So just something to keep in mind. Important, but yet it doesn't mean that it's not going to affect your hike necessarily. So. All right. So, thinking about what our second day of this particular trip looked like, I think we woke up and had to cross more creeks. Down around Low Gap Hollow, Low Gap area. It's all on the map, but lots of low water crossings right through there. And then I think when we went through that section is also when we saw... Maybe it was after Big Creek, but kind of within that middle section is where we really saw a lot of the old house places and kind of some old porches and daffodils growing and even an old car, I think.
Yeah,
that was out
I
in the
remember
woods.
the car.
So I always kind of, I don't know, get kind of strange, good feelings, but also melancholy feelings a little bit around old house places. Just interesting to think about the lives that were once lived there.
I feel like I remember specifically the spring peepers being really loud around that area.
They were. There was probably like little ponds here and there around old house places, but
it's kind of cool.
That was a pretty ruggedy area to climb, though. I remember there being like a lot of like straight up and downs, not necessarily really tall ones, but some decent steep hills to get up through that area. I don't think it was too long because I believe we had our lunch at Big Creek, that we had to cross Big Creek. And I know that was probably one of our favorite areas.
Yeah, you kind of get to the top of this ridge and you get to look down at Big Creek.
So
that would
pretty.
be a really pretty place to camp or hang out or whatever. But we did go ahead and get across.
We did. We crossed it and had our lunch. But I have to say that Big Creek was just so pretty. It really just looked like any river in the Ozarks, except just kind of a smaller version. Lots of beautiful cliff sides and gravel bars all lining it. It was kind of a really special little Big Creek.
Yeah.
I would like to check it out again someday.
Me too.
Kind of explore that area or camp along it. It's just a really pretty area. But I do remember we had our lunch there and then we started our climb out of there.
I don't remember like a ton of details, but for some reason I remember at lunch we were talking about feet and blisters. I don't know if we had them or if we were just talking about... Like, we had feet, obviously. But I can't remember if I had blisters or... I don't know. I just feel like I remember that conversation.
Our lunch is recorded, if you want to go back and listen to it. The sound is questionable, but you could probably figure out if we were talking about feet or not.
This is not an important detail, so of course my brain clung to it.
So let's see. Big Creek Crossing is between mile marker 12 and 13 on the OT map. I would say that if the creek's high, it could be a pretty dangerous spot because it's not the tiniest creek. So it's pretty decent size. So it's something I would definitely be aware of if the water's high, is that it might be more than you would want to take on, or that would be safely to try.
I think we got lucky when we went because it's like there had been enough rain that water wasn't an issue. There was plenty in all of these little creeks, but the Big Creek wasn't too hard to cross.
No, we didn't have to like get into our elbows or anything like that.
Do the whole like diagonal crossing or whatever.
Yeah. But I could see how it could be challenged at certain times. But again, all of this area is just got a lot of low water areas that you'd want to be aware of, especially if it's raining or if you've had rain. So not far after crossing Big Creek is where you will, about 1.5 miles past that, is where you will cross the Forest Service road that we take down to get to the far end of our section, and that is where our adopted section begins.
Yay!
Right about mile marker 14, you'll find it.
I love her section.
My personal favorite section.
It's best.
We both just spent some time, each kind of on different ends of it, but we both just spent some time working on our section. And I don't know, it being fall and the fall colors out, I just fell in love with it that much more again. From the Forest Service Road there, it is about 1.5 miles to get down, work your way down towards the river bottom. And again, you do cross a number of creeks along the way. And in fact, there is one really beautiful creek that has a small waterfall in it. It's kind of a triple waterfall.
It's so cute.
It has like kind of different inputs going over the fall, and it's kind of fed off this really beautiful creek that is just like solid bedrock bottom. Really, really beautiful. But there's other creeks too, so beware. There's creeks everywhere. Spot. It is a beautiful spot. They had no water going over the rocks, though, when I was the other day. But it has been very dry. We are short on rain. So I would say normally you could count on finding water there, but maybe not all year round.
Yeah.
Overall, I would say this entire section is fairly easy to find water on. I mean, you are along the current, but I do want to make a note that just because you're next to the river does not mean you're actually next to the river. Yeah. You may be up on top of a bluff top, and there's no way to get down to the water. And there are some areas where you can more easily get down to the actual river, but not throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. You still need to plan appropriately.
Absolutely. But I would say that this one is maybe a little easier than some others to plan the water for. So once you get down to the current river, you kind of start working the ridge lines back up over and just looking out over the river. And it is so beautiful.
Ugh, it is.
So pretty.
I don't know why that sounded disgusted and it's not. It's like, oh, it's so pretty.
It is so pretty. Just really wonderful hike. Very steep hills, though, so it is something you want to be careful. You might bring a hiking pole with you or something. It's pretty steep.
And pay attention to, like, fatigue levels. Like, if you need to stop, take a break, eat a snack. There are some parts of this you don't want to be stumbly on, I'll just say. And
True.
It's not just kind of working along a ridge where maybe you're a little bit on a slant. There's some sections where they're really gravelly, like tiny little, those good trippers.
Yes.
So I would try to keep yourself hydrated and fed and rested enough that you don't get to that, like, stumbly.
Yeah. I mean, you're not necessarily just walking on the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
It is very steep, and if you got to go, and you could fall for a long way. You could roll for a long way.
Yeah, at best it would be very inconvenient. At worst, you could knock some ribs or a head.
Right. Or worse, frankly, because there are some very steep spots along the trail. Your body would continue for a while. So
that was definitely something I was more aware of last time on some of those. Just to being pregnant, my balance is starting to get a little different, and I get hungry more often. So I was like, man, I need a snack. Fair. I almost lost it right there.
I mean, it's not... I would take my kids on this section, but we would have to be very careful. We would have to have a talk about how we're not goofing off, because it's a slightly dangerous section. You could sure fall a long, long way. It's not really scary, and I'm not a big heights person, but it is something you want to watch your feet and where you're putting them.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking about the section I love so much, we could just talk about it probably for hours. But I did recently kind of get to go through some sections of this part that I hadn't really done in a while, and some parts down along the river that really tend to get grown up. Root Hollow area on the map. Luckily, right now in the fall, they're not so overgrown. It's not too brushy, but that is something you might want to consider in the middle of summer.
Right.
Some really brushy areas down along the river.
That would be rough in the summer. You might just become a tick.
Yeah.
Just...
I have named that area Machete Bottoms.
Oh, I love it. I also just want to say, if you're prone, I don't see a ton of poison ivy on this section, but I see a lot of poison oak. And I try to clip it back where I can, but something to be aware of. Hopefully you know how to identify that. But I've noticed a lot of it this year.
I have too.
So, side note.
But I would say for at least this section along the river, that's probably the brushiest by far. It's kind of a low-lying floodplain, frankly, and it can be very brushy. It's a lot of bamboo. I think there's a lot of nettle that grows up in the summer, which is great until you have to hike through it. It might not be so fun. So that's kind of a low spot that we're considering the best way to keep it managed as well.
It's the most difficult to maintain, I think, just with the tools we usually have with us.
Right. And in the deep summer, I mean, there's just nothing, there's only so much you can do to keep the brush from growing. You're not gonna.
Brush gonna brush.
Yeah. And to be fair, I don't think too many people are hiking this area probably in the middle of July. It's just too hot and buggy.
Sometimes at that time of year, it's hard to see if the benefits outweigh the...
Yes. So true.
Bombardment of bugs and heats and heat rash and...
But it is something we're giving thought to of how we can better maintain that really brushy section, even in kind of the off months. Hopefully we can find ways to make that work for us and for all the hikers as well. But once you kind of get out of that bottom kind of flood zone area, you kind of get back up on the ridge tops. And it is, once again, some of the most beautiful stretch of trail
Mm-hmm. I love that stretch after that ridgetop where there's like all the rocks and the cedars and then more rocks.
There really are some incredibly huge trees along this section too. Mm-hmm. We were really noticing like some massive pines, massive oak trees, like huge. You don't really see that many oaks that big. So that's something you can look forward to, and it's just really beautiful forest. It really feels wild out there.
We really can't oversell this.
I know. We're going to get annoying with it.
You need to go right now. Stop what you're doing and go.
I did want to note, because it's not on the Ozark Trail map, but it's a spot that we both have fallen in love with. I believe it's between Barn Hollow and Root Hollow, through there somewhere. There is just this really wonderful kind of rock. I call it the rock corner.
Yeah, I call it the rock ledge.
Yeah. It's just kind of it curves a bit, and it's kind of just this rock overhang bluff. Wonderful spot that's really kind of unusual and special that you should just go out there and see for yourself.
It's so cool. You could tuck in if it were raining.
Yes.
It's a great lunch spot. It's always like a little bit cooler, I feel like.
It is.
When it's shady.
I had a really neat experience the other day. It literally hasn't rained here in weeks, but I was out on that section and somehow a little thunderstorm popped up and started raining, and I made it to the overhang just as it started to pour. So it felt like the most like serendipitous timing that I was able to make it to that special rock corner right as the rainfall started. And so I was able just to kind of sit there and listen to it. It was lovely.
I love that.
But that is a favorite feature of ours that I don't know if I've ever really seen anyone else talk about it. I see others' pictures of it. Other people must like it because they take pictures of it, but...
I just think it's so cool. I love it. And I love how you sort of like... You get sort of like a small taste before you get there if you're hiking from the east side.
Both ways,
heading west. There's like this one section from that side where it's kind of a smaller version of it, and there's sort of like I'm using my hands. You guys can't see it, but... There's like this little opening in the rock at one point, and it's really cool, and you kind of navigate around that, and that's already cool in itself, but then you sort of go around the little corner, and there's like the big curve in rock, and I don't know, it's just cool.
It's so pretty. But all along kind of that stretch along the bluff tops overlooking the river, a lot of really beautiful bluff areas, just huge rocks, beautiful moss that we love. Pretty much all my favorite things in that section.
There's also a section, I think after that, if you were hiking east, is that where there's the one little stretch where you're on the side and there's these really pretty views of the hills kind of out across, but then there's this whole little stretch that's just lined by coneflowers.
Yes.
And we hiked through there one time when they were blooming and there were butterflies everywhere, and that's a really neat little feature too.
Too bad that I believe coneflowers usually bloom in like July, and we were out there doing like July trail work probably, but it would be worth it, especially kind of that section of trail. If you stopped at Round and worked back east, you could have a pretty enjoyable hike without getting in too much brush. I feel like
I agree.
And kind of stay up on the ridge top, so you could kind of hit that I think all times a year. So we'd say, do that. Go see the coneflowers. Let's see, moving west from like this little rock corner we're telling you about, you kind of just go up on the ridges and then back down into the creek bottoms and whatnot. And before too long, you do run into that center gravel road that we were talking about that kind of brings us to the center at Capps Hollow. I think people do probably drive down there to go to the river too, but it's a little rough road. And by that point, you're really not too far from Round Spring. Yeah.
I have to say, like, because our section starts at the Round Spring spur and then runs to that one county road. Anytime we've ever had to, like, hike in from Round Spring to do maintenance on our section of trail, I believe it's like 1.5 miles to the spur. on the way back after doing trail maintenance, that feels like the longest 1.5 miles
It does.
that you have ever hiked in your life. Every time. I don't know why. It just keeps going.
It does. I agree, and I feel like it takes forever on the way in, too.
It does. I just usually have like more excitement at that point, and then on the way back I'm tired and I'm like, I'm going to be out here forever.
It's a climb up out around too. Like you got to go up. So that's something to keep in mind too.
Immediately.
Have you ever really gone that upper side of the spur?
I haven't.
Okay. Me either.
When we were out there recently, they had, I think it was actually in September, but they hadn't taken the flagging down yet. There was some sort of event held by the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation.
Okay.
Some sort of race or something, but they still had some signs, and we got really tickled at this one because it was kind of like where the sign is for the spur, and like up a little ways on the way that goes towards Echo Bluff, there was this one sign that said, "Stop, do not turn around," or something like, or like, "Stop, don't go further, don't turn around," something like that, but it made no sense. And we joked about it all day. We're like, what do we do? Which we weren't going that way. We were just curious what the sign said.
That's funny,
But it was
though.
like, stop. Like, stop, but don't turn around. I can't remember. It was very confusing, though.
Remove your signage.
Yeah, we joked about if we should remove it, but then we're like, what if it hasn't happened yet?
The person's going to keep going.
But I looked up afterwards, and it had already happened like a month prior, so... But we got a kick out of that.
That's funny. Well, and they do some different challenges in this area. I think normally, like, moving north from Round, but which we're going to talk more about that section in just a second. I think this particular section that we have adopted is just so remote, and the other end of it is so remote. It makes it hard to include it in some of these like social challenges or whatnot. But some of the other part of this upper current, they do. I feel like this is confusing because we're talking about sections within sections.
I know.
But hang in there with us, you guys. We'll get there. So we did end up on our first experience of hiking this section of just instead of camping a second night, which I think partly too, it was kind of hard to find a camp spot because it's so steep. You're just walking on a diagonal like the whole time. So we did end up coming out at Round Spring at that first initial trip after dark. It
wasn't necessarily planned. It was kind of the camping and also weather moving in.
Yes.
And we just kind of felt like it was the right call.
We were close, too. Like,
we were
it wasn't very far, so I think it was just like, yeah, let's go home. I do know that is the trip that I had a pretty gnarly blister on the side of, like, on the outside side of my heel. And I think it's just really from, I probably didn't have my boots laced up quite tight enough, but also from just walking on that diagonal all day. For hours. It took its toll on my heel, and I definitely had a weird blister there for a while. But
well, and that second day ended up being a much longer push than we anticipated, so we probably didn't take as many breaks as we should have.
Yeah, that was probably 11 or 12 mile day. So
I swear some people out there scoff at that, and I'm like, look.
It's like, well, you carry Betty and tell me how fast you go.
You try lugging Betty and Lisa on this terrain.
You try having all these snack stops and finishing that fast.
We are not ultralighters, all right? Our gear is not ultralight, and our snack bags are heavy.
Well, and it was our first time exploring this area. And to be fair, I mean, we're looking here at this map. The elevation profile is no joke. There's a lot of up and down climbing.
We should post a picture of that.
We should, because it is really not playing around.
It's a nice looking elevation profile, I gotta say. Look at that.
Somebody's heart's beating pretty well, so it looks like. So we did choose to finish the final northern part of this section from Current River State Park to Round Spring. We decided to finish that on a separate day, but very quickly thereafter. Not very far in between.
Well, we had to go all the way back and get my car. I'm trying to think. Did you just...
I think we took you home.
Yeah, you took me home.
Cody took you back to get your car because it was too much.
Because it was like 2 hours.
Yeah.
So getting done hiking, we were like, we're not doing that right now.
We already cut it a day short. Yeah. So I guess it kind of worked out. Thank you, Cody. So when we did that final section on a separate day, we kind of decided to move in the opposite direction and start at Current River and then move towards Round Spring and kind of meet where we'd stopped last time. And I can't tell you a whole lot about this section besides that it was just really pretty, enjoyable, and I feel like it was easier hiking.
It was. I remember that being the most pleasant hike. Yes. I think I even brought both of my dogs.
You did, yes.
It was, would that be around like 8 miles or 7?
Let's see.
Really great little stretch to do as a day hike.
A little bit more than 8.
We had the best time. Like, honestly, the only thing negative that I remember was just that we didn't find the exact right spot to start at Current River State Park.
That's right.
And we ended up trying to navigate back over onto the trail, going straight up this hill. But we just somehow missed the turnoff to where it actually was meant to
Sometimes trailheads are hard to find for no good reason. I just cannot find them. It's a me thing, I think.
Yeah.
It was like the most pleasant day. I think we kind of compared and looked at our times on some of the other parts of this section and kind of given ourselves an estimate, and we like smashed that time out of the water. It was much easier hiking. Yeah. Not as rugged, more gentle sloping as far as when it comes to actually like doing the climbs and the descents. It was very pleasant. And I would say it is more accessible for a larger number of people.
Definitely. And you go through Echo Bluff State Park, so you could always stop and get a snack or
That's true. Or you could stop there.
Something. Yeah.
You know, you could make, that would be a great little, like, let's see, that would be about 4 miles. That's a lovely afternoon hike for folks. And it was pretty gentle hiking. I remember we finished way quicker than we meant to, even with the puppies.
Yeah.
They were troopers.
I think we even like had so much time that we just kind of like walked on across the bridge to Round Spring and sat at the picnic table and cooked up some food.
We did.
Cooked up some food.
I was trying to remember why we crossed the bridge, because I remember crossing the bridge and I was like, why did we do that?
To eat.
That's what it was for. And your dog, Rio didn't like it.
Oh, he was terrible.
Yeah. I was like, was that just for funsies? Food.
Actually, I think that's the first time you made that cold soak salad situation.
The celery
and that was
one.
So good.
That's right. We made such a good time. We just, I'm like, well.
What should we do? Eat, I guess.
Eat some food. That was a really lovely trip. And it's one I would say, like, more people, like I said, could have access to, even people maybe with slightly like less mobility and stuff. It's a much gentler hike, and I feel like it's less dangerous overall too, just less places to fall off and things like that.
Beautiful little stretch. And more, just more accessible, even if something were to kind of happen. Like, you're pretty close to Echo Bluff and
the highways.
And the
right
highway
there.
and being able to flag someone down. So
that's a great point. I feel like that part of the trail maybe isn't my favorite, but it's lovely and I enjoy it. And I do think it's just more accessible for people in general to get to. And, you know, people can come and maybe just day hike, you know, stay at one of the state parks and just do some day hiking. And that would be a wonderful section to do such a thing at.
It would. Maybe someday we'll go back and do the whole section. It would be kind of cool if you had hiked in from Highmont or even from Blair, hiked all that way to like treat yourself to a nice dinner at Echo Bluff.
That would be so awesome.
Before you do that final 4.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I've just always wanted to hike to Echo and eat. I don't know why. That just sounds so fun.
Hiking with the goal of eating somewhere at the end sounds like,
right?
I mean, goals.
It's all about the snacks. I was trying to explain to my husband how important the snacks were. I think he was starting to understand by the end of the day, because he was like, yeah, I want some of that ginger stuff or whatever it was.
Yeah, sometimes it's about taking a break, but sometimes for me it's also about like keeping my mind occupied, because you go through such a range of like empty brain, full brain, like you almost get, I don't want to say bored, it's not the right word, but there's times where I feel like I distract myself with snacks because I'm just kind of like, oh, I'm in another phase of
completely
something.
Totally understand. It's hard to explain,
Yeah,
but I totally understand.
I don't feel like I explained that well, but I'm sure that...
I don't know how to explain it, though. It's like a little treat for yourself is worth something, too. I don't know. I guess we just like food.
Well, and if you just think about backpacking, it's like at a certain point you're just walking through the woods.
Right.
And so it's like, hey, if I can chew on something to enhance this experience.
Well, you're going to have to stop and eat anyway. So if you like make it something that you like look forward to and enjoy, it becomes like you're in like your favorite place in the woods, more or less, you know? And so putting that love into the snacks you're going to have, it just makes like the whole thing like that much of a more rich experience, I think, too.
Yeah.
Like doing delightful things in the forest. Come on.
What more could you want?
I know. Very little.
I guess that about wraps it up.
Yeah.
That was our experience.
There were a couple things I wanted to make quick mention of, and if I didn't already, I do not believe that backpack camping is allowed in either of the state parks. So in Current River State Park or Echo Bluff State Park, if you wanted to camp there, you would just have to go and like actually book a campsite and legitimately do it that way. You can't just primitive camp wherever you want. Of course, along the rest of the trail, you can, like, what is it, 100 feet from trail?
Your usual primitive
just the
trail
usual
or camping rules.
It's just something to make note of, though, is technically I don't believe in the state parks that you can do just, like, primitive camping wherever you want.
So as Sam mentioned, even though you can camp anywhere, like, throughout that other section... There's a kind of limited flat areas. So I would study the map ahead of time, like read people's reviews from all trails, definitely be familiar with where it's not going to be the side of a hill.
Yeah, good luck.
And, try to plan your mileage according to that, because there's definitely some stretches where if you were kind of just winging it and being like, oh, I'll just camp when I see a spot, you might go longer than you think you will.
Right, because like we've been talking about, it is extremely steep, and there's not just a lot of leveling out anywhere. Maybe that's why we camped in the creek bottom that first night.
I was going to say, where it is, there's probably creeks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, find a flat spot next to water, probably.
Now, if you're a hammock camper,
you
might have a lot more opportunities, actually.
The forest is your oyster.
This might be a great section for hammocking. Come to think of it.
Something else that I wanted to mention, you will see like the usual white and green OT blazes along the trail, but something you do see a lot, and sometimes in place of the OT blazes are orange blazes, which is like the Current River blaze, and I'm not exactly sure who has put up what and how that all works.
I was curious about that too.
Yeah, but don't let that freak you out. You're probably doing just fine on the right trail if you see the orange, because I think in some places they haven't put up the OT ones and just let the orange ones suffice. Just something to be aware of.
Yeah. And that is on the whole trail. That's why I was kind of confused about whose those actually are. Because you see them like on the whole
thing
section, don't you?
I'm kind of confused by it, but it shouldn't throw you off. Don't panic. Is this what I'm trying to tell you? That's normal, and just keep going. And I don't know. I know they do different sorts of challenges and whatnot. I know one of them, you start at Round Spring, you hike up to Current River, that's like 7 or 8 miles, and then you float back down the river. I think that would be fun. There's different sorts of activities, so maybe some of the orange blazes comes from some sort of challenge like that. I'm not really sure, but there are orange blazes as well as the white and green OT ones.
Yeah, I feel like overall navigation on this I would rate as like pretty good. There's a couple little spots I feel like I remember getting more confused, but as far as like intersecting trails, really, the only intersections are the Brushy Creek Loop, where you wouldn't want to take the loop because then you're just going to loop, like if you were hiking in from Highmont. But I feel like that one was pretty self-explanatory when we got to it. I don't feel like it was confusing. And then, of course, when you get to the Round Spring Loop, but they have super clear signage. So
yeah, I think maybe the Brushy Creek was a little bit more confusing for me, and maybe that some of that orange flaggage is that. I'm not quite sure. So that might be an area, you pay a little bit extra attention to, but I don't really feel like it's that hard to follow.
I think it's pretty well blazed at that point. There are also a couple spots. There's that ridgetop super old abandoned road I was talking about. Mm-hmm. It kind of, as you're like hiking across this ridge, it almost feels like the natural way that you would want to go.
I know exactly,
but you kind of stay to the left. Instead of hiking up. It's just one of those areas that throws you just a little bit, but it's pretty clearly blazed right now. And then there's one other spot where there's this super old, I don't know if it was like a four-wheeler trail at some point, but you probably know where I'm talking about. It's sort of one of the more bottomlandy areas. And there's just sort of this, what looks like a trail going off in the opposite direction. Mm-hmm. Cody and I found a old sleeping bag back there.
Really?
Last time we were back there.
Huh.
And a pair of shorts.
There are some other foot trails that I've seen. I'm not sure where they all go.
Yeah. So I have no idea. I don't know what happened to the owner of the shorts either. There might be a naked cold man out there somewhere. I don't know.
Just look for your blazes, right? And don't go down naked cold man's
avenue.
Trail. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, and as I said earlier, if you're really lucky, you might even get to see the wild horses, which I think would be... It's always such a special thing to see them, but I really hope that someday I get to see them on trail.
I wonder if at some point you might not see some elk out there at certain spots in the future as that population grows.
I would imagine so. It's not that far from where a lot of them are. I would say it's possible to see just about any kind of animal that we have here in Missouri right there on that river.
So far I have seen a ton of wild turkeys and deer.
Yeah.
It's a great section. You should get out and hike it. It'd be a good one to do with a buddy so that you can have help with your shuttle. And also I think that with it being so remote, it's not a bad idea to use the buddy system or to have some sort of SOS device on this one.
Absolutely. And even if you don't go like point to point, there's some pretty simple places to do some great out and backs, which I know sometimes isn't as much fun, but sometimes coming back, it just seems like a completely different trail to me. And I can't even believe that I was there previously on the same day. So it can be a very different experience, I think, returning to your car. For better or worse, I don't know.
A different person at that point.
Yeah, definitely a different person by that point.
Yeah.
But I think, like, if you were to park it around, you could do several miles in from there and still have time to get back, and it would be a lovely day trip. So I think that there are options that don't have to be too complicated. But if you're feeling it, head on out those national forest roads, and go down to the far end and see what you find. Probably no other humans out there if that's what you're into.
Yeah, I would say that's probably my biggest tip if you're planning to hike this trail, whether it be the whole one or some of these sections that aren't like right there at current River State Park or Echo Bluff State Park, is like just put the prep in for a remote section. Like make sure that you're prepared, make sure someone knows where you're going to be.
Yes.
And yeah, that all your water and food is situated.
It's kind of an interesting, like, juxtaposition between, like, the western side of the trail that it is, like, built around campgrounds and, like, people and recreation and stuff. And then, further east, it's so remote. But I kind of love that. I never really thought about that before, but it kind of gives you the best of both, and it kind of provides a wide variety of activities for different sorts of folks depending on what they're looking for. So
yeah, I agree. And that's why I think if you were hiking it from east to west, that would be kind of the fun way to do it, because then you've had the remote and you might be ready for that like people interaction or a nice dinner at Echo Bluff, or like having those options at the end. Also, this is close to Eminence, somewhat close depending on where you have to drive out from or what your plan is. So you can always drop into Eminence, and they have the Dairy Shack.
Heck yeah, they do.
Which is just kind of your classic food and ice cream. And they also have a good Mexican restaurant there. So
Eminence is always fun.
It is. So it's a nice area throughout there.
There's lots of things to do, too.
Mm-hmm.
Even year-round, I think. It's just kind of an interesting little community. So if you have time, go check it out and go support their economy.
Do it.
But more than anything, I really want to encourage anyone that's interested and to check out this section. I really feel like it's one of the very best that I've been on in the Ozarks. It really represents the Ozarks so splendidly. It's really beautiful and perfectly wild for me. So I love it, and I'm looking forward to getting back on it.
Me too. I'm ready to do the whole thing again instead of just our section.
So if you guys have any questions about this section or our experience, or if you want to set us straight about something, please feel free to reach out and do so. We would love to hear from you.
That's right.
Yes.
We're going to check our email more often. highwatertrekco@gmail.com.
Yes, or on the social media stuff. We're not always posting, but we are there. So feel free to reach out. And if any of you guys want to tell us about your experience on the Upper Current section, we sure would love to hear about it. I watched a nice little YouTube video. Aww. A couple did it.
I should watch it.
It was pleasant.
I love when people share videos of of their experiences.
It was nice to kind of revisit some of the areas I hadn't been to for a little while. Anyway, so thanks, nice couple.
Yeah. Thank you, Ozark Trail Association. Thank you, Kathie, for your conversation with me. Check them out, guys. If you have some way that you can show your support, please do it.
Yes, please. And thank you to the OTA for just making this possible for us to have these experiences and get a glimpse of, being in the deep woods and the wild. Like, I live for it. And without those guys, like, none of this would have been possible. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think that's it for us today.
I think we're done. We're getting to that point where we're rambly, so we probably should be.
Okay, bye.
Bye. This is going to get cut out because I have to go pee anyway. But for some reason, I feel like when we hiked this trail was that when we kept saying beaver damage every time we saw it. Remember that?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, let me take a quick.
Because
I know about those. When I was thinking earlier when you were talking, I almost laughed because that just popped into my head like without warning.
Beaver damage.
Beaver damage.